Welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. Today we'll be covering an array of health issues. Today with me is the founder of the Center for Gender Education, Mrs. Angela Oda, and Mrs. Ogechi Ohadomere, who is the Vice President of the North Central Chapter for the Hemophilia Foundation of Nigeria. Stay tuned for these exclusive interviews. My name is Osasu Igbenedion, and I am your host. Mrs. Angela Oda, founder of Center for Gender Education, thank you for joining us in today's program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you elaborate on the effects of contraceptives and reproduction? Because again, I just want to give our viewers a general background of where we met during the media roundtable where you spoke against the use of contraceptives and abortion and how these international organizations are pumping this medication here to underdeveloped countries to harm the general populace. So can you show us some statistics while you speak about these issues, about the side effects of these contraceptive drugs and abortion?
Well, I did not speak against the use of contraception. What I said was that these various international organizations that are promoting contraceptives and abortion as women's human rights and right to choice and even healthcare should also educate women about the side effects of these contraceptives, because at the end of the day, they harm women. And when we're talking about increasing the participation of women in governance, in the economy, socially, and all that, if a woman is not healthy, how can she effectively participate in the development of our country, and society at large? So they have life-threatening, consequences. In 2005, the World Health Organization stated that the contraceptive pill, is a Category 1 carcinogen. That is, it is cancer-causing. I'm going to share with you information from three institutes, one in the US, two in the US, one in Canada. There's a Polycarp Institute in the US that brought out a collation of 23 studies that were done, including the World Health Organization categorization of the pill as a Category 1 carcinogen. The title of that study was Meta-Analysis Oral Contraceptives and Premenopausal Breast Cancer. It was issued on the 3rd of October 2006. Like the shot, reduces a woman's bone density, and as she gets into the menopause period, it makes things, her health, really very challenging for her and all that, because she's prone to, all kinds of bone disease and all that. The condom does not offer complete protection, and in some cases it said, the report says that it also increases a woman's chance of getting HIV, especially if her partner, is infected. And the spermicides, the IUDs, the IUDs cause women anemia, and reduces their immunity, and so they are prone to all kinds of opportunistic infections, bleeding, hemorrhage, and even for some stroke. You understand? So all these are in the public domain. This information can be gotten from the polycarpinstitute.com. For the DeVeber Institute for Biotics and Social Research, this is an institute, a medical research institute in Canada. They gave a summary, and it's online too, www.deveber.org. They gave an overview of the impact of induced abortion, on women's mental and physical health. It increases the chances of a woman to become suicidal within 12 months of the abortion. It has increases mental health issues, depression, They're also prone to anxiety, suicidal, tendencies, and other health problems, low fertility, infertility, prematurity, abortion and STDs, And then abortion, they say, also has there's a link between abortion and breast cancer too. because they said that over 37 studies up to the year 2003 of the link stated the link between induced abortion and subsequent breast cancer. 23 showed a 30% increased risk of breast cancer for women who experience induced abortion.
So these 23 studies, how can we clarify the sources that they are from, number one? And number two, we all know that a lot of people do studies, a lot of teachers, a lot of professors, just a lot of people out there on the internet can post a study and say, okay, this is, research certified or whatever the situation is. So why should people believe this kind of study that abortion leads to breast cancer? What's the correlation between both?
Well, these are not just random organizations. These are medical, research institutes, that these are researchers that I will call activists. They have realized that there's no point hiding information that women need to know and that society needs to know in medical journals. Because the reality is that, in the society, thanks to the pro-abortion advocates, what they are promoting, what they are telling women is far from the reality of the researches being done by the various medical institutes across the world. So what they have done is to collate the various studies done in America, in the UK, in Canada, in China.
And disseminate that to the general public.
Yes.
So what do you want the public, the viewers of this show who are watching internationally and nationally, to do with this study? What do you want them to do? What action do you want them to take?
Women should ensure that whatever form of contraception they must go on, they know what the side effects are, so that they make an informed choice. You don't just take something into your body
without knowing the side effects.
Without knowing the side effects. So women should take action. If you must take contraception, then know what you are taking, know what the side effects are, and then maybe you could even also do a comparison. Which is easier for me to handle. You understand? Rather than just taking hook, line, and sinker whatever you are being given in the hospital without asking the doctor what is the side effects that I will encounter when I use this.
Also doing research for yourself is very important.
Exactly.
You shared with me a personal story off camera. I'm not quite sure if you want to share it with the general public about your experience with the contraceptive.
I have used contraception and they all failed woefully. The IUD, I used it for about 2 years. That one got me sick. I was in and out of hospital. I almost lost my life. You can imagine a woman in her 20s. I was just going in and out of hospital, spending so much money. And of course, they did not tell me, the doctor did not tell me the side effects. It was when I got into all the problems I got into that I now took control of my reproductive health by reading about these things and discovering that, oh my goodness, at the end of the day, this does not, even the agony, like there was a time I was on the IUD, it got missing. I didn't know what happened. I was just going from one scan center to the other, just to discover where exactly it had gone to. Another experience I had was with the implant, which is put on your arm. In fact, I have a scar. I've been scarred for life. And so that's why I feel that women need to know. You saw the program where we met, when I just mentioned the fact that, oh, these things are harmful to, you saw how the women went up, because a lot of women don't know and they just put these poisons, these carcinogens into their bodies. So women need to take control of their reproductive rights. And, couples, the husbands need to be cooperative, because if the women, there are natural, scientific-based methods that are available that women can use, because the way a woman's body is made, every month within her circle, there's a period in which she's infertile and there's a period that she's fertile. So couples can use that knowledge, to space their children, to decide when they don't want to have children anymore, and how, they manage intimacy and all that. So that is why I think that Nigerian women and women across the world need to wake up. We cannot continue to allow ourselves and our bodies to be abused by pharmaceutical companies that don't care about our health, that put profits before human beings.
Mrs. Angela, thank you so much for your time. And just to wrap up, I think in general, from the information that we've learned today on the Osasu show, the decision is up to you. You can go out there. These information that we have here will be posted on our website, www.theosasushow.com. But I encourage you to go out there to do more research for yourself. As I said earlier, there are so many institutes out there, research institutes out there that put out studies and papers regarding these issues. So you can go and look through all of them. There are also studies out there whose reports contradict this one, So you can go out there and make an informed decision for yourself and what is best for you as an individual. But we're just here to share some knowledge and do the best we can to help everybody out there make an informed decision. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back on the Osasu Show. This is Oge Ohadomere, Vice President, North Central Chapter of the Hemophilia Foundation of Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us in today's program.
Thank you for having me.
Walk me through your experience of raising two children who live with hemophilia.
Hemophilia is a rare inherited bleeding disorder. We have 1 in 10,000 children with hemophilia. Boys are usually the sufferers while the mothers are the carriers. So it means that it is transferred from mother to son. So it's obvious that I gave the boys my bad X chromosome to make them, to make them boys. And we know that boys have the X and the Y chromosome. So that is, the basics of being a hemophiliac. And as a hemophiliac, you usually bleed uncontrollably because you're lacking a clotting factor. It's a protein in the blood that, helps your blood clot when there's an injury. So the boys lack that clotting factor. And it's really quite challenging and life-threatening to bring up a child with hemophilia because, as boys, they say boys must be boys. They have to play and do the regular daily activities that any child would do normally. And, you're always on edge when you see your child playing because if the child is playing and, there's an injury, then there's a problem. Because so far there's a problem and there's a bleed, whether it's internal or external, then it means you need a clotting factor. You need something to replace that protein that is lacking, which usually enables the blood to clot. You need to replace it. And we call that the anti-hemophilic factor, which is very expensive to actually use in treating patients with hemophilia.
What are we talking about?
To treat a little crisis as little as biting your tongue when you're eating, depending on the child's age and weight, you require about 30 IU for 1 kg. So you can imagine a child who weighs about 25 kg and you require 30 IU per kg. You're thinking of about 750 IU. 250 IU is between 60 and 100,000. So, yes, and if you're needing 750 IU to treat a bite on the tongue that is bleeding, then you're thinking of about 180,000 to 300,000 to treat a bleed. So how many families can really afford it? No family can afford it because we eat even if we're not eating, we eat 3 times a day for a child. So you can imagine if the child bites his tongue 3 times in a day, and you require about 300,000 to treat a bleed. So it drains the family's resources. It affects the families emotionally. Your child is out there, your child is in school, and you're constantly thinking, what happens, what next? That's not the best way to live life.
You told me your story, the heartbreaking story of when you noticed your son had an internal brain bleed and he had to be flown out of the country to the United States, where you ended up getting billed $70,000 just for that one incident.
Exactly.
And this is obviously something that happens, sporadically throughout the child's life. So can you tell me, what do we have in Nigeria that can currently treat this autoimmune disorder? And if we do not have, which you've told me already, we do not have the system to treat it, what can we do? What stage are we at right now, and what can we do to improve our system?
Well, I'll start from when we had nothing at all. The Hemophilia Foundation of Nigeria was established in 2005, and it was the struggle of a mother like me who had to cry out and look for solutions to see that the child lives a normal life. So the foundation came to be in 2005, so it's 11 years. Within the last 11 years, we've come a long way, because at least we've come from no care to some care. And the care is because of people like the World Federation of Hemophilia and the National Hemophilia Foundation in the US that have come to our aid. Because in 2006, the World Federation established what they call the Humanitarian Aid Program, whereby they send treatment factors and treatment products to developing countries, and Nigeria has really benefited from that program. So that's what we've been relying on since 2005. But you know that in life, you cannot rely on donations. You can't live your life relying on donations, because you have it today, tomorrow you don't have it. So currently in Nigeria, we really don't have anything hemophilia care in Nigeria that is established by the Nigerian government. Hemophiliacs are not even recognized in Nigeria, maybe because we're a very small community, and
well, Nigeria, we have over 117 million people, and the hemophiliacs are 17,000 hemophiliacs in Nigeria, and only
252 are identified for now. So you can imagine the gap between the identified and the unidentified.
And people are just dying from internal bleeding, or they have a cut on their hand which just keeps on bleeding, and they die and think, okay, somebody from the village that is doing something to them, but they're not identified.
That's the major problem, because I have a lady, actually our executive director, whose mother had about 9 sons who died, so, and it was attributed to witchcraft and stuff like that before now. So it could tell you what goes on because of ignorance and lack of awareness. And for now, that's where we're at. We're trying to create a lot of awareness so that we could identify people who are dealing with this challenge. Okay, after identifying them, what next? You must provide treatment. You must care for them. You must set up something to manage hemophiliacs, because it's not as if it's going to go away. It's something that you have to learn to live with. Let's have a desk officer at the Ministry of Health, whereby hemophiliacs will either be either in public health or in non-communicable diseases, because for now, hemophiliacs don't even know where they belong. So that's the first thing we need to do. We need to know who to cry to when we have a problem, when we get to the Federal Ministry of Health. That's one. Then we need to have proper diagnosis of patients. So our laboratories need to be properly equipped. And we need to have our medical personnel properly trained. The WFH, which is the World Federation of Hemophilia, have actually helped us in training some personnel, especially at the National Hospital and other hospitals, because currently from zero till today, we have about 11 hemophilia treatment centers around the country.
It's a good start.
Yes, no, it's a good start, because I have a brother who died after circumcision because he bled to death and nobody knew what happened. So a lot of the boys have died during circumcision, and by the time a hemophiliac is at the age of 18 and above, it's rare before you see a hemophiliac who is not going with a walking stick. And this is because there was no care or management. Yes, some people say we can treat with blood transfusions, but the disadvantage of continuously transfusing somebody with hemophiliac is you run the risk of HIV. You run the risk of having the person's immunity compromised. So you can't even really do that. We have in the US, if you check, we have about 48% of hemophiliacs as being HIV positive. We don't want that.
I want you to also talk to the government about insurance as well.
Yes. Because of the high cost of managing a patient with hemophilia, I think the best thing the government can do is to see that our health insurance covers hemophilia care. That is how it's done in developed countries. It is the government, the insurance that pays for your care as a hemophilic patient. So that is part of what we want the government to do. And, we'll be able to see hemophiliacs living near normal lives. And, then they can do the things that other people do. We have hemophiliacs who have participated in the Olympics in other countries. But here in Nigeria, we always tell hemophiliacs, no, you don't have to play, no contact sports, don't play football. And you can imagine what you're doing to the child's confidence and self-esteem if a child goes to school, see other boys playing football, going out for break during the break.
And he's made to sit in a corner.
Yes, you're made to sit in a corner and watch.
Definitely. And I think the second part of our focus on today's program is identifying hemophiliacs earlier in their earlier stage of life.
Yes.
So when you go to a hospital, they're not going to directly check you for hemophilia unless you request for it. When they take your blood sample, they check for a list of diseases, and I know for a fact that hemophilia is in one of them. So how do our viewers today who are watching, or maybe they say, okay, wow, I actually have that bleeding problem, or what kind of symptoms should they look out for, number one, and number two, what advice would you give them to ascertain whether or not they are hemophilic?
When we had our visit to the House Committee on Health, we requested for something. We said, when a mother is pregnant and you go for your antenatal care, we were asking that checking the bleeding and clotting time should be part of the test that a woman, has to undergo while you're pregnant. That's one. Then we're also asking that, when boys are born, before they're even circumcised, it would be nice if we can have the bleeding and clotting time checked. That's a simple test that costs about 1,000 or 1,500 naira. It's usually cheap. It takes about, I think, within the same day, you can actually check that. So as soon as the clotting time is within the normal range, then that's something you need to look into. Because hemophilia is not the only bleeding disorder we have. We have other bleeding disorders like von Willebrand disease, the platelet disorder. So as soon as there's a red flag whereby the clotting time is out of the normal range of what it's supposed to be, then we should check.
There are a lot of our viewers who are going to be watching this show, and this is the first time, thanks to you, that they're going to be educated on this subject. So I want you to tell them what they can do to get themselves also tested. If they are maybe 20 or above, it's probably less likely, right, that they're hemophilic if they are not aware of it, right?
Funny enough, we had a boy who was only diagnosed when he was about 29, and because he was bleeding internally and he didn't know, he kept
He was going around.
Yes, he kept complaining about the right part of his abdomen, being painful, and he was actually bleeding into his stomach. So he thought it was an appendix till the doctors checked. So, and before you go into some kind of surgery, you have to monitor, this, do the clotting time and stuff like that. That's when they found out he was actually hemophiliac. Maybe it didn't manifest because he was a moderate hemophiliac, because as hemophiliacs, you're either mild, you're moderate, or severe. When you're severely, when you're severe, then you bleed more often. You don't have to have any impact or contact with anything before you bleed. But if you're moderate, you could actually live your life and be able to escape it not manifesting, or when you're mild. So there are still adults out there who might be hemophiliac and don't know. Yes, till there's a crisis.
So it's safe to get everyone who's watching.
Just check your clotting time.
Just go and check.
The basic thing is to check your clotting time. Medically, they call it like the prothrombin time. Check your clotting time. If it's out of the normal range, then that's a red flag. You need to check.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ogechi. Any last words to our viewers?
Well, what I'll actually encourage everybody to do is to help us spread the word in schools majorly, because even if your child escapes not bleeding during circumcision, but the child will play in school, just let us spread the word that there's a disorder called hemophilia, and it could come to, and you could actually come across someone with hemophilia. Let's know what to do. It is a life-threatening disorder if not managed properly.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's program. You can watch extended clips from this interview on our website, www.theosasushow.com. To find out more information on hemophilia and other issues that we discussed earlier on this program, you can also visit our website and do some investigation for yourself as well. I'll see you same time, same place next week, and until then, take very good care of yourself.